Well, coming back to the companies, the models that companies are moving towards is this, what we call the global maximizer. In this model, no subsidiary controls the entire business system. Everyone depends on everybody else. So parts of the products are shipped around the world to be completed in one place. What does it mean for a product to be made in the USA or made in the UK, because the components have done from different places? This was summed up by a sweater I once bought that said, the label said, designed in France, made in China. And I've been waiting for a car that says, that adds, and inspected by Germans, as the sort of ultimate label. Now, it is very hard to manage in this model, because you're working with virtual teams spread around the world. You're working electronically, websites, conference calls, one of you at 3 a.m. in the morning. This is the network organization. Now, let's look at an example of a real company that might look like this. And I've chosen a relatively simple one, just so that we can depict it. So this company has factories dotted around the world, sales activities around the world, and they operate in the kind of model that I showed you. And this, by the way, is not a particularly large multinational company. I don't know whether you can guess what company this is. They make a product that all of your graduates would like to own. It's BMW. Perhaps you'll give them all one of these on graduation. Or at least their new employers, they hope, might give them one of those. And of course, there are far more complex companies than this. So what does globalization mean? What is a global company? And there are different kinds of definitions, and what's the difference between international and global? The way I view it is that the word international simply refers to any cross-border activity, anything involving two countries or more. But to be global, you need some extent of presence, such as in both the Northern Hemisphere and the Southern Hemisphere, and in the Eastern Hemisphere and the Western Hemisphere, and also some integration of your strategy. And I'll talk about that in much more detail. But for now, let me give this definition that I like to use. The global company does not have to be everywhere, but it has the capability to go anywhere, deploy any assets, and access any resources, and it maximizes profits on a global basis. Now, when I run seminars, I like to ask the executives in the audience, on a scale of 0 to 10, how would you score your company? And of course, no one ever scores their company a 10. So of course, being a global company is not a black or white thing. It is a matter of degree of how far you go. And of course, you could apply this same test to educational institutions. And of course, educational institutions, by their nature, and I'll talk about this a bit more, are far less capable of being global in this sense than companies are able to be. And I'll talk about why there's a significant difference in that. Let's now look at the way in which companies think about global strategy. And there are 5 elements. Which markets do we go into, the kinds of products we offer, where we locate our activities, the kind of marketing we have, and our global competitive moves. Let's look first at markets and market segmentation. In the old world, international markets used to look like this. There were essentially national segments with high walls between them. So if you were French, you bought French products. If you were German, you bought German products, Japanese, and so on. And that's sort of the extreme model. With globalization, what is happening? These are not all converging to just a global segment, but typically to this model here, where there is a global segment in the middle that offers a product that everybody wants, and then there are national niches around the side that are smaller. Now, what is interesting is that there is a strong industry effect. In some industries, the global segment is very large. Computer industry, for example. Everyone wants global computers with minimum modifications, such as the keyboard, for national taste. In food, the other way around. The national niches are much bigger, although, again, it differs on the food category. Shouldn't have done that. Can we go back to where I was? Yeah. In food, it even depends on the category. In coffee, for example, which is a very old 300-year-old category, the national niches are very large. In other segments, interestingly, beer is one of those segments where the global one is starting to expand. So eventually, we'll all be drinking American-style lager, just to cheer you up. So these are the kinds of issues that companies think about. And so when you're looking at employers, you need to understand whether they're in a highly global industry with global products, or whether they're in one with what we call multi-local products, because that affects the kinds of executives they want to hire as well.